Hi, this is Chrissy Incognito, and welcome to another episode of my channel. Now, you might be wondering why I'm incognito. This is my alter ego that can say things that I could not otherwise say unless I was incognito. So, thank you for returning. This is episode 3 entitled Michael 2. In order to understand more about this video, please view the previous video entitled Michael 1. Happy listening. His spleen. And so he had to go into an operation. And at that point, I asked my parents to drive me to go visit him, blah, 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 blah. And so that's how I think we kind of came back together. The problem was when we came back together, he became, which he always was, but I just didn't see that side of him. He became possessive, jealous, volatile, very, very weird situation. And so he became worse and worse and worse. And it is true that when they're controlling, they do isolate you. They don't want you to be like, I could only be around certain people. And that was people that he knew he can control, um, and everything like that. And then I could only wear certain things. I wasn't allowed to, like, sit on my front porch unless he said so. It was just very weird. Um, but one of the reasons why it didn't occur to me that this was inappropriate or like is because my entire life, as kids do, they're told what to do, right? My parents were controlling and not to the point that it was unhealthy. Do this, don't do that, wear this, don't wear this, hang out with this person, don't hang out with that person. And then school is doing the same thing. Do your homework, don't do this, don't run in the hall, don't do this. So it was just, to me, one more norm of control that is around you, right? Your entire life. Now I was like 15 when we started dating. Your entire life is being told what to do because you're a child, okay? So when he became controlling, I knew it was wrong, but I didn't really think much about it because, again, um, going back to the first episode, my sister was controlling and demanding, my parents were controlling and demanding, schools controlling and demanding. So it almost is like, one more person, and you don't like any of their demands. I didn't like his demands, but it was just the way it was. um he used to tease me about my nose, and he used to say to me the typical abusive things. You're lucky, you have me, nobody'll want you, blah 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 blah, all that other crap. And it takes a toll. So you have this junior high, um insecurity of the bullying and being told you're ugly. Then you have your first kind of real boyfriend, um, that he's telling you that you're ugly and, nobody would want you. And that does take a toll on you. Then at some point, he got very controlling about my clothes. And just like Eric knew, he would know what I was wearing or where I went that day. Michael had mutual friends watch me in school. So I remember at lunch, every day at lunch, I called him. Okay, now these are it's not really dating myself. They're pay phones. I always had to have a quarter available. And he would expect my call. Now, to backtrack, I'm in school. He's the same age as me. Why am I not in school? Oh, he dropped out. Okay. Because and I think a lot of what he took out on me was his anger and resentment from his family. And it was only when I got older was I sympathetic to that. I would have had a lot of rage too if I came from his family. Um So at some point, his mother got married to his father. Now, his father was older and he had already had a family. And something about one of the kids of that first family died. And then he was a cheater, the father. So then he met the mother and had 4 kids. Oh, please don't even get me started. 4 kids. And then he left for his secretary or some kind of nonsense. So you have 4 kids of different ages. Like, so I think he was the youngest and like the oldest was 22. So if he was, let's say 16 or whatever, the oldest might have been like 22. So that's a pretty decent span. And then he had an older brother and a middle sister somewhere in there. So his mother, I don't know how she did it. She worked like double shifts of being a nurse every day because I remember going back to the first episode, I was up all hours of the night. So we would be talking in the middle of the night, and his mom would come home at like 2 o'clock. And she would come home and maybe, sleep for an hour, and then she had to be back, or, 2 hours or whatever it is, and then she had to be back doing another 8-hour shift, so she was never around, and I don't know how this lady did it. Being a nurse, having 4 kids, being left with all this it 'cause, obviously, of course, the father left her in debt. He was a real piece of I don't as soon as I hear your backstory, I'm like, "Yeah, this is not gonna work." So he had a lot of resentment, and I can understand that. And it was only later on in life that I was like, "I don't know how he didn't have more resentment," for as angry and resentful and unhinged, that you were, he didn't get arrested. He wasn't having like knife fights and stuff like that, but he took a lot of it out on me. So I don't excuse that, but when I look at it in a perspective, from a distance, I can see like I can understand why he had so much. So he had spies at my school. And I remember one day I got up and I was pissed. I was like, "I wanna wear my mini skirt." You know? He's not gonna find out. I'm not gonna see him for 2 more days. So, like I said, I called him every lunch, on the payphone, and what he would do is call me back. So, the recorder would last to make the call, but then to be on for the next 45 minutes they call you back, he would call me back on the payphone I was at, and we had, like, 3 or 4 payphones, so it was never, it was never in the same spot. Anyway, I remember when I called, he said to me, "You're wearing that pink mini skirt that I told you not to wear." And I was like, "Michael, did you were you here?" He's like, "No, I have people watching you, and don't think you can try to get around me and blah, 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 blah." So it just got worse and worse and worse. Now, he was never violent with me, um, meaning to me. He would be in a room and he would throw things and he would, just be completely unhinged, but he didn't physically, touch me, hurt me. I do believe that so at the time, we were obviously living in our parents' house, and like stupid teenagers, we were planning on getting married at 18 because 18 is the age where everything's gonna fall into place, right? Everything turn 18, you get a job, you get your own place, and everything is hunky dory. Well, no, obviously. But I do believe that if he had isolated me to an apartment, because I mean, it's probably a basement apartment somewhere, If he had isolated me to a place, like an apartment, like if 18 did happen and we did move into each other and we did get married and all that other kind of nonsense, I do believe he would have started to become violent to me, not just around me. I think one of the reasons um, that he wasn't violent to me is because my parents were really involved in my life. And he knew that they would press charges against him. So I believe that's the only reason why he did not become violent.